Hi, welcome. Happy Monday. Hope you've had a lovely weekend and ready to start the week. It's been quite chilly, still got signs of winter here, but Livia's got the perfect dish for us today. She's going to be cooking a very delicious risotto on our lunchtime live cooking lesson. Thanks so much for joining us. Please do drop us a comment, say hello. Last couple of weeks we've had some guests joining us from the States and also from Australia. So wherever you are, say hello. It'd be great to know who you are. And let's see what Livia, she's all ready. There you are. Hello.
Hello. Buongiorno. Maybe this week we have sorted our technology, my technology problem.
Yeah, we are.
Maybe
we
no rebound.
We're good to go.
It was actually a very stupid problem, but I'm not very good with technology. Now it's sorted. Sorry for last week.
Yeah, no, it's no problem at all. The main thing is all that delicious food that you're rustling up for us and inspiring us what to cook on a Monday when it's Monday and you never know quite what to make. So you've got risotto on the menu today.
Yes, this is a quite different risotto from usual because it includes an ingredient that I think in UK you would consider it for a risotto, but actually is not very, very, let's say, Italian, because prepare a risotto with chicken is not something very traditional. It's actually traditional in Veneto, so just in one region, in an area near the Adriatic, on the Adriatic coast, Meraclea or Caorle. These villages are famous for this recipe. There is actually a confraternita, which is like a society that protects the rules and how to make this traditional recipe, which Artusi talk about in his book. And we usually, very often we refer to Artusi, which is the famous gastronomy person that collect all the traditional recipes from all over around Italy and of the 18th century. It talks about this recipe, which is called Risi, plural, e Tochi. I think some of you maybe have heard of it. And it's made in an area where rice is produced in Veneto. And that's why it's typical there. And is actually a way on saving, let's say, on the cooking of two dishes, because once you make braised chicken, which is in Italy called pollo in umido, okay, you would actually after prepare a risotto. So it's not cooking at the same time two courses, but it's cooking one first and serving it the next day in a risotto version. And I'm going to show you now that I've made it yesterday in my terracotta pan here. If you want, I can bring it over there if it's better. Okay, so this is my braised chicken. Okay, seems quite saucy, I don't know, with a lot of sauce. Okay, because this sauce is the ingredient that I'm going to use to make the risotto. So it's not just the sauce, it's also part of the chicken. And it's a way to make one meal in, let's say, one whole meal, because it's a way to eat meat together with rice.
Yeah, perfect. I remember we do other dishes like that. We've cooked, for example, the veal escalopes, and we've cooked that in the tomato sauce, and then you use the tomato sauce for pasta as your first course, and then the veal you'd have with the vegetable as a second course. That's really quite common. It's easy one pot cooking, which is great. I've just noticed actually Val's watching us, and it was Val's birthday yesterday. I think it was a special birthday for Val. So happy birthday, Val! I hope you had a lovely day.
Ciao, Val.
Retirement.
Yeah, I hope she have celebrate all weekend long.
Sure.
Va bene. So I'm going to start while you will keep chatting. I'm going to prepare the base, which is like a soffritto, and the ingredients, you can see them here. It's celery, carrot, and onion. Okay, as you can see here. Okay, celery, carrot, and onion. I'm going to prepare this chicken in the terracotta pot that you can see here. Okay, because it's always better to prepare any braised meat courses in a terracotta pot where it can cook for at low temperature for a long time. Terracotta keep the heat, instead aluminium, like that's the material we're going to use for a risotto, let's say spread it well, conduce the heat in a different way. Instead, terracotta is for long and slow time cooking. I'm going to turn it on so that we can prepare it, start warming it. Obviously, I'm using something for the flame to be, come si dice Lorna? Diminuita, reduced. Yeah, so the terracotta doesn't break because it's very delicate. So while I'm warming it, I'm going to cut into small pieces celery, carrot, and onion. Okay.
Perfect. Great. And obviously that base, Livia, you could use that for any risotto. So if you're doing like a mushroom risotto or...
yeah, I think every risotto has a different base. This is more a base that I would use for a meat course. So for example, it's the base that you would use for a ragu sauce, but it's not really a base for a risotto. A risotto, depending on the ingredient you use, you make it. So if it's with mushroom, for example, I would make a base just with garlic. There's no reason to use garlic and onion together because they will cover their own flavor. So when you use garlic, you can just use garlic. Otherwise, if I make a risotto alla parmigiana, which means with a lot of parmigiano, I would just do a base with onion. Okay, so celery, carrot, and onion is quite special. It's mainly the base for a meat course, for a stew like we are making, or for braised chicken, like we were saying you should call it. Okay, you know, we have a lot of confusion between when we call something a stew, because I know in UK you call a stew something that cooks in the oven.
Yeah.
Instead in Italy,
it's just the principle though, isn't it? It's just that sort of low cooking over a low heat, which is the same. You can do it on the gas or in the oven, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's also the tradition to use a lot the oven for you maybe comes from the fact that you live in a quite cold country. And I think if you go down to the south of Italy, for example, they almost don't have any recipes that cook in the oven, but a lot of them are on the hob. I think there's something to do with the weather, because when you warm up the oven, and then you warm up the temperature in the room for sure. And I think that's also why you got things like, how do you call it, that stew that you got in UK, Lorna? Agar?
Oh. Yeah,
oven, sorry, not stew, oven.
The agar.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's special, right? And you can use it even to warm up the room, really.
Yeah. Great.
So I've never heard about it. That's why I don't know how to pronounce it. we don't have it at all, so we don't need it. Let's say.
No, well, I think the agar too. It's quite a specific form of cooking. You cook in the agar because it's really a low heat. But yeah, it's great for like rice puddings and lots of stews.
Yeah, for sure. Even dessert I think in Sicily, the most important one, like cannoli, are all on the hob. They're not really in the oven. So which is quite strange, because desserts are very often cooked in the oven, right? So the tradition, really, when it's hot, you think about it twice before turning on the oven if it's really hot.
Yeah, but I was just thinking, there's that dish that Antonio, I was thinking about rice. Antonio makes that dish in Puglia with the mussels and the rice and the potatoes and the mint. Come si chiama?
Can you hear me?
No, you're gone again. What's that dish that Antonio makes with the rice? Taeda. The taeda. That's in the oven.
Always work very well.
Well, you've lost it. What you've done, Livia.
Sorry, just a second.
Yeah, you've lost you. You back now? Yeah. No, I was.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I think since I cannot really hear you, I'll just get out and get back in a second.
All right. Okay. Perfect. We'll just amuse ourselves. Whoever's watching, tell us what you're having for lunch. What's cooking? I've got lentil soup. That's my healthy start to Monday. Wonder what everyone else has got for lunch. This is lunchtime. And we are actually having, we're actually going to be some cooking in the office this afternoon. We've got the kitchen in the office now, so we're having a team lunch tomorrow, and we're going to be cooking some lunch this afternoon for team lunch tomorrow. Right, is that you back, Livia?
When you say you sorted all the technology problem, that's when something happened.
It's fine.
Okay, so here is celery, carrot, and onion. Meanwhile, I warm the pan. Okay.
I was just asking.
And,
Sorry, Livia. I was just asking Livia when you left us what everyone else is cooking, and yeah, somebody else has got liquid potato soup. We've got cheese on toast. Oh, that's great. My favourite.
wow.
Yum,
Yeah,
yum.
soup.
Yeah, soup.
Very
Yeah.
light.
Yeah.
Light and really seasonal. You can do very nice seasonal soup there, I think.
Yeah. We're going to make your minestrone this afternoon. We're having a team meeting tomorrow, and we're going to have that for lunch tomorrow. So we're going to cook it this afternoon. Tasting good
great.
Mm.
Good. I guess you're going to do it with different ingredients, maybe with different vegetables, because you got more winter vegetables.
Yeah, I'll take a picture and send it to you and see if we get meet your approval.
We want to see it on Amici, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so are our men online following us? Now, I'm very embarrassed when I think that Mario or Antonio from Puglia, or Mario, which is a chef in Bologna that a lot of our guests know, are watching us. I feel a bit embarrassed. I don't know if they are live with us now, but it's always an honor. And it would be nice, Lorna wants to cook with Mario, because Antonio can always do it.
It'd be great. Bring some specialities from Bologna. Do you remember Mario was on with Rick Stein when he visited Bologna? Rick Stein went to Mario's restaurant and was cooking in the kitchen. Really nice clip, actually. Mario was famous.
Yeah. Allora, okay, so now I'm softening the vegetables. Okay, first, because soffritto, we always say it is a base. So you need to develop all their flavors together, diffuse them, let's say, in oil. And then we are going to cook the meat in this kind of base, which is appunto celery, carrot, and onion. About the meat, here I got chicken. So I've bought an old chicken, cut it in half, and I've cooked half of it last night for the stew, the braised chicken that I'm going to show you. This is the other half that I kept to show you how to prepare it. Okay, so it's just half chicken, and I'm going to show you now how we can cut it. Since we are not sealing the meat first, we're not browning the meat first, there's no reason to keep a big amount of skin on, because, if we're making chicken pollo alla cacciatora, then I would cook the meat without any base. Instead now, since we are making, we are adding it to the vegetables that are already cooking, it's better that we take off the skin, because the skin is nice when it becomes crunchy and release all its fat in the pan, let's say. So we are choosing which are the joints of the meat and cut it in pieces. The pieces we are using for this braised chicken are quite big pieces, because when we serve this dish on top of the rice, either we, let's say we decide to put some on top of the rice, or we serve it as a main course, as we were saying. So big chunks of chicken are perfect. Also, because this rice is called Risi e Tochi, and I didn't explain you why Tochi, but I will say you now. So Tochi means tocco, is a way to say tocco. Un tocco di carne, from some northern dialect, means a big chunk of meat. So these are quite big pieces if you serve it on a risotto, and that's why this risotto is called Risi e Tochi, from Veneto, let's say more Veneto dialect, which means big chunks. Okay, so while the meat is, the vegetables are cooking, I'm going to add the chicken just as soon as the vegetables are softened. Obviously, you can see that they are softened. When you can see they change the color and they are translucent, you can see through them a little bit, especially I think the onion is the best indicator for this to happen, because it changes the color easier than the other two vegetables, which are celery and carrot, will just get a bit softer.
Okay.
So you can.
I was just thinking, Livia, in Italian you say toccare, to touch something.
Un tocco comes from touch. Yeah, so un tocco di carne, there are certain regions that still say un tocco is a big piece. I don't know why. I don't know why. You're right. It comes from toccare, which means touch.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we've got actually Carlo's coming into the office shortly, and he's doing some of our Italian online lessons, and he comes into the office on a Monday. So I'll ask Carlo. He'll be the guru, and our Italian language teacher, give us a lesson. But I was just thinking about that. So sorry.
Yeah, no, because usually really, I try to go deep in every, to find out the reason why the trade. But this really, I don't know. Maybe we need Carlo or my mother. That's the other option. Because I'm sure there is a reason. But now, as soon as you find out from Carlo, please write it on Amici so we can see. So even if I could wait a few more minutes, but I want to show you a bit of the procedure. So I'm going to add the meat now.
Yeah.
Okay, and I will leave it here to cook. And then we will start with the risotto with the meat that I've already prepared. Okay, so we leave the chicken here on a side, and we will focus on the rice. So now the meat first have to seal a bit. I like to use terracotta pot because the heat is really developed in a different way. It's never too hot to put your hands and your fingers in it, I think. So you can actually also turn the meat on a different side if you want to turn it over with your hands, and you won't burn too much because the heat spread in a different way and the temperature is kept for longer. So as soon as the meat will be a bit colored and sealed, as I told you, we have took off the skin because it would, the skin gives a lot of flavor and it's a good ingredient to leave. It allows you to use less oil, let's say, because it will release its own grease. But if the meat is not properly sealed with any other ingredients in the pan first, then the skin becomes too soft and not crunchy like we would like it to be. Okay, so now that I've sealed all the pieces, few minutes, and it's going to be the right time to add red wine. Okay, so quite a big amount of red wine. Red is good because this is a tomato sauce. So when you use tomato, same as in ragu, I suggest you to use red wine. It depends actually in which region you come from and which kind of wine is more popular in that region. So if you make a ragu and you are in Emilia-Romagna, if you are in Emilia, you would make it with red wine because that's famous for Lambrusco and for red grapes, most of all. If you are in Romagna, sometimes they use white. So it depends really where you live and what you have available. So that's how the tradition developed. Meanwhile, I'm going to cut also into small cubes some fresh tomatoes. So it depends here if they are in season or not. So if you use a fresh tomato, I was saying it as a lesson a few days ago, for a sauce, never use a very pale orange color tomato because that for sure not grown in a country where it's in season because it's not ripened. And when it's a big tomato and it's still not a very red color, it means really it's not good for a sauce. It's good as a tomato for your salad, but it's not ripened enough to be used as part of a sauce because just ripened tomato are good for pasta sauce or for any sauce you use fresh tomato with. So these are just some cubes of fresh tomato that I'm adding to the chicken already.
I was thinking actually as we're chatting about Emilia-Romagna, do you remember when we used to do the cooking holidays in Bologna like years and years and years ago? And it was really interesting because we tasted quite a lot of the local wines from round about Bologna, and it was things like Lambrusco and I think Bracchetto and lots of wines that traditionally in the UK you probably would have not really drunk, but actually there's some really interesting wines.
Yeah, or you would have drunk a lot when you were young. You have drunk a lot No, I know they consider to be not good quality wines, and I don't know why, because actually it depends on what is available in your country, because if in your country you have bad quality of Lambrusco, then you would consider it a very not nice wine. But if you go to the Lambrusco area and you taste it, it's really very different. It's a little bit like Prosecco here. In my region, Prosecco is not as, it's popular. Everyone drinks Prosecco, but not as popular as other white wine because we don't have the quality that you get if you are in Veneto. So I think really it depends if you are so lucky that you can enjoy the flavors from the region and go taste them there, then when you are there, you will appreciate everything that they produce, because it's going to be the best of what they can produce. So Lambrusco can be really good if it's produced there, and expensive. So
yeah, no, I remember being really surprised actually. It was,
Well, this recipe comes from Veneto, and Veneto, it's famous for white, and Prosecco. But instead, there is an area which is where I've learned this recipe, which produced a red, which is called Raboso. Actually, it's produced a bit everywhere, and it's a little bit, can be made as a sparkling wine also. And I think it's a nice red, quite strong into color. Okay, so I'm adding the whole cup of red wine, and now we're going to leave it to cook, and in a few minutes, when the alcohol has evaporated, we're going to add tomato, and I'm going to show you the final result. Now we're going to add the tomato in a few minutes.
And so that's stew, Livia. Sorry, I'm a bit confused. I'm easily confused. I'm not having my coffee this morning. The chicken, is that for the stew you're talking about, or is that
the chicken is the flavor of the risotto. So this is the same chicken braise that I've done yesterday, okay? Right. And I've shown you the procedure how to make the chicken, because the risotto is made with this sauce, okay? While we finish the chicken, that actually should cook low temperature in a terracotta pot on the hob, or in the oven if you have the beautiful oven that you got in UK, and then with the sauce, you should make the risotto like we're going to do now. You should cook it for about 2 hours, low temperature over there, okay? And now we're going to use something, leather, I never know how to say it, okay? And instead of making a base for this risotto, okay, we are just going to add the liquid. Now I will move it here close to you so you can see it better. Okay, turn down the rice behind. I should have a professional TV kitchen, Lauren, for this. Instead, I have not very exciting kitchen, but it's also good because everyone can see that you can do everything, even in a small space. Okay, so this is the pan in the same, let's say, in the same pan. So if it was not terracotta, let's say, I could have done the risotto just taking off the bits of chicken that I want to keep for later, if you don't use it all, or that I want to keep to place on top of the risotto when it's cooked. Okay, so this braised chicken will have released a lot of bits of meat, obviously, a lot of pieces of meat, because if you cook something slowly for many hours, obviously it will release pieces of meat like this, okay, that will give a lot of flavor to the rice. So this is the base. There are already the vegetables and all the flavors that the risotto will have in the end, okay. Meanwhile, I've also prepared, as every risotto, the stock, okay, that have to be used to make a risotto. So this is the beginning of the risotto. This risotto should be made with Carnaroli rice. This is where I've learned this recipe. That's the kind of rice that they use. Carnaroli is a super fine, let's say, I don't know in English, but rice is classified into different kinds, and super fine is really the best one. The proportion between the length and the width, the thickness of the rice is the best, so it's the bigger, and is the perfect rice to make a risotto. So now, while the sauce is on already, the base is on already, you can see there are pieces of meat in it. I'm going to add, let's say, depending on how hungry you are, 2 or 3 handful of rice for each person. I'm going to do.
I love your measurements, Livia. A handful. It's never too exact. It's always very.
Yeah, it's always quite big amount. I'd say. Okay. Because actually risotto, and we have learned this also in a lesson that we've done about preparing aperitivo with leftover. Risotto is a good ingredient, is a good base to prepare something also the next days. And I think most of our guests have been to Sicily and they have learned how to make, for example, arancini.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's no other good way to reuse the risotto than making an arancino the next day. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, Livia, that was so you're basically coating the rice in the sauce.
Yes,
and then you add in the stock to cook the rice as you normally would in the usual way. So the sauce is just like replacing your onions and your sofrito, essentially.
Exactly. There's just the same sofrito that we have used for the chicken that have absorbed a lot of flavor. Mm-hmm. Now it's going to be the base for the risotto. We just have to add a bit of more red wine, and that's because there is a way of saying in that area where they produce rice that rice is born in water, because you know you have to keep water all year round while you produce rice, and it dies in wine. So a lot of red wine, and now I'm going to get more red wine. Okay.
How do you say that? What's that phrase in Italian then? How do you say it in Italian?
Si dice il riso nasce nell'acqua e muore nel vino. And in red wine, in this case, in red wine. Okay. You know that the reason why rice is produced into water, it's because you can control a lot of bad things that can happen to a rice, to the plant. And for example, control the temperature, because at night in the areas, temperature go very low. Instead, the water keep the temperature quite constant. And then also is a good way to defeat all the insects and disease that can happen to the rice. So until 10 days before they harvest it, usually September or late September, they keep all the water in the fields. Okay, so it's covered, and it dies with a lot of red wine in this case. Okay, so never enough, never too much. So you see, I'm using all these bits of meat to give more flavor to the rice, and then I will serve them in the dish because it's a way to eat two things at once. And you know, here in Italy right now, we're talking a lot about a problem, which is gas cost. So we have to really be concerned about it and maybe choose to do recipes that allow us to cook something to waste less gas. Is a good way to, I think, to cook one thing once that I can use for two different dishes. So if you make the braised chicken, then you can use it also for the risotto, and you can cook it kind of at the same time. So it's a way of saving, I think.
Yeah, that's great. It's really useful. It's really interesting, actually, Livia. I think it's a really good idea to get the rice being soaked up and absorbing those lovely flavors from the sauce. Yeah,
it will get more flavor, much more flavor. So now instead of adding a sauce, which I think is enough for just 2-person rice like I'm doing, I'm adding some stock. And also, when you prepare the stock, there's no reason to add a vegetable stock. You can do a chicken stock, and nothing better than using the bones that the old chicken that you have bought to make also the stock. So celery, carrot, and onion in the stock, and also the bones of the chicken. Comunque, the other important rule is never add too much broth at the time, because it's we don't want to boil the rice. We have to make a risotto. We're not making boiled rice. Instead, if we were adding too much liquid, the starch will not behave in the same way as it does when you make a risotto. So the starch have to be released little by little. If you make a risotto with too much liquid at a time, you boil the rice. It's like boiling it in water. If you boil some rice and you eat a risotto, I think you can get the difference between these two dishes. So that's why a risotto is made with a glass of wine in your hand, taking a long time.
I'd be really interested, actually. I think, Anne's watching us, and Gay, and Julia. I'd be really interested, actually, if risotto is something that you make. Let us know, see what you think. Are you tempted to try Livia's dish? I'll post. Livia sent me the recipe, and I've got it, so I'll post it in a link on on the page just after this live, actually. And if anybody makes it, do post some pictures and let us see, because I'll be honest, I've never seen that kind of risotto being made before. It's a really interesting variation.
Yeah.
I was just saying, Livia, when you were having problems with your hearing, Antonio makes the rice dish taeda with rice and potatoes, and that's baked in the oven. And
there are many dishes you can make with rice. Really, there can be a mix of different ingredients. Yeah. And I'm adding some passata. Okay, so you can use passata. You can use, since we don't need a lot of tomato, you can also use tomato paste. Okay, just a little bit, or some passata. So a few. This is what I'm adding to the chicken. Do you remember we are cooking the chicken here? Because I'm showing you how to make the braised chicken. That you need 2 or 3 spoons.
Yeah, and do you always use passata? You don't just use some tins of tomatoes, no? So...
Allora, I've used a few fresh tomatoes here because when I've learned it, I've seen how they were using fresh tomatoes, but that's because it was summer. Then you could use plum tomatoes, a tin of plum tomatoes if it's winter, or if you have a good quality of passata, you can use just passata, yeah. So, allora, another thing that I want to say, I don't know, I've learned, I don't know if it's really true or it's, but the reason why risotto is called that way, it's because you make an 8, a figure of 8 with a spoon all the time. So risotto, it's riso 8, 8, because you make, si dice the number 8 in the pan while you're stirring. You keep stirring it because you want every surface of the rice to really soak up the liquid, and all of it has to be in contact with the heat. And that's also the reason why when you make a risotto, you should use a pan which si dice conduce, Lorne, or conduct? Conduct, okay, heat. The heat faster. So even a copper one would be perfect, you know, like it's, okay, so it's when it's starting to bubbling a bit higher, it's time to add a bit of liquid and let it absorb. While it's the heat added this way, we release the starch. Okay. So this is really a risotto that I've learned that I never heard about until I went to see how it's made. And I know British would. I'm sure you have made a risotto with chicken before. In Italy, really, it doesn't exist apart for this area. And I think, how did you make it, Lorne, when you made it?
That's right. No, I remember you laughing at me, Livia, many years ago when you came, and I used to make risotto for my son when he was little. He liked risotto and chicken risotto. In fact, it still is. In fact, it's on the list. We're going to make it this week on our for dinner because it's an easy one. But we just use chicken breasts and just pop it in towards the end and let the chicken cook a little bit with the rice. And I usually use arborio rice, I confess, and not cannaroli. So, yeah, good top tip. Yeah. But I remember you laughed at me with the chicken risotto and poo-pooed it. So actually, it's good to see that. Actually, I must have known it was actually authentically Italian. But obviously, we just cook it with stock, and I really like that idea with cooking it in the tomato sauce. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I wonder if some of our guests that are following have ever made a chicken risotto, or I think I've heard in the past, even in United States, something like pasta and chicken, which is something really, I didn't find any region yet that cook pasta and chicken. No, actually, not really the truth.
It's a bit like that debate about carbonara and how we always have carbonara here with cream, and you don't make carbonara with cream in Italy. It's the same. I noticed actually Val was saying she has with prawns and peas. She was saying that's her risotto. That's how she cooks hers. That's a nice one as well, isn't it? It's nice and tasty, easy too.
Yeah. No, quello anche with peas, it's Risi e bisi. I don't know. I think you have heard about it. It's another typical risotto from the area.
Yeah. We did another risotto actually. I can look back and I'll repost the link. One of our other lives last year, we did a risotto. I remember because I remember you were chatting again about the consistency of the different rices and the best rice to use for risotto. I think. Yeah,
actually, I got here something I've made a while ago to. I don't know, like going to school, but I don't know if you can see it clearly, but this is to show you the difference between different kind of rice. So in Italy, there are about 30 different varieties cultivated in Italy, and these are the two most famous, I think, better used for a risotto. And carnaroli, it's more expensive, and it's over here, okay? Vialone nano, carnaroli is longer, okay, and a bit, is the longest and the thicker. And Vialone nano is a bit more flat and round, but is also a very good quality of rice. It's just semi-fino. Instead, super fino is carnaroli. So it means they got a very good balance between the length and the width, which means a big amount of starch. So it's that's why it got different prices. Arborio is good. I have it here. I also have it, and I use it more for, let's say, general cooking with rice more than a risotto. If I make a special risotto, I would use carnaroli. And I think now in UK you can find it, Lauren, right?
Yeah, really easily. Yeah, it's really easy in supermarkets. Yeah.
Yeah. And usually, because it's long and wide, carnaroli have a bit longer time for cooking. Every plant, every rice produced in each make have different times. So they give you an indication, but then obviously everything depends on the kind of pan you're using, the heat, the temperature you're using under. So they give you an indication of time, but the best way to realize when a risotto is cooked is to see the color changing into the rice. So this rice is still quite white color. He has to become like a bit like a pale orange color. We have to realize that he's absorbing the liquid and he has released the starch. So the changing of consistency for sure is the easiest way to get that it's cooked, and you can do that touching it with a spoon. You can see that the consistency of the rice is changing. And another way is really the color. So, and when the rice becomes, you will see a bit darker color. In this case, because we are using a tomato sauce, it will be cooked. Meanwhile, the stew keeps cooking at least 2 or 3 hours. You will get a better result, but it's almost ready. This rice has, I think, 17 minutes time for cooking, at least. So I think it's almost ready, and I'm going to show you how to serve it. Just 2 minutes and it will be ready. Meanwhile, Lorna, I want to tell you that in Italy, this week, there is an important music festival that goes on every year. I don't know, it seems to be, like it's something I think you have heard about, maybe. It's Sanremo. It happens in Liguria. Have you ever heard about it? I don't know. It starts tomorrow.
The name's familiar, yeah.
Start tomorrow and it finish on Saturday, and it's all the new music for the year will come out this week. So that's something we will be very busy watching, very busy with my mom. And another important event here in Italy was that we have a new, quite older Presidente della Repubblica. I don't know if you've heard, Mattarella.
Yeah, it reached the news here as well. It's 81 or something. Great. Age is just a number. Age is just a number.
Yeah, and also he's really nice as a person. He's very sweet. Like, he would never say no. And I think he could have run away from the window, like to try to avoid it. We have a lot of comedians that make fun of him because it's too nice. And he has to say yes because we couldn't find nobody else. Okay. Anyway, that's it's just to tell you what is going on here. Anything new there? No?
No, nothing too much. And the Sanremo Festival, is it classical music or pop music?
Italian, obviously, music. It has to be new song. It's pop maybe. Yeah, it's where, the song Volare or... that's how it started. Volare was presented as a show 70 years ago. So it's on since 70 years. It's every year. And it's on TV every evening from Tuesday to Saturday. And I think you can see it. Maybe if you check Rai online, you can see it. If you want to see something very Italian.
We were updating actually just last week. We've got a Spotify Flavours playlist with lots of songs.
For real?
I
will look for it.
Yeah, I think I'll put the link down actually. Yeah, it's got songs like that. It's kind of Volare and all the kind of Pinto di Blue and all the kind of classic Dean Martin. Yeah, you like that music as well. You've usually got your CDs and when you're cooking in the kitchen, Livia.
Yeah. I got a lot. I really like to listen to music. So I think now the color is starting to change. I will try to show you a little bit better from closer. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's starting to change. It could cook maybe a few more minutes, like 2 or 3 minutes, but I would like to show you how to dish it up. So I would prefer to eat it without the meat on top, because I think there is quite a lot of pieces of meat in the middle, so I don't need to add any extra right now. So I will just serve it in the dish. You see there are quite a lot of pieces of chicken in the middle, but there are other ways to eat it. You see, like for example, and it's all white meat from chicken, so it's really good and very flavored. You could serve the meat on a side, like in a little, or like here, and eat it at the end, maybe adding, using some bread to soak up the juice, so as a main course. But this could be the final result.
Great.
Okay, we allow you to eat meat and also carbohydrate.
Okay. And would you have any vegetables with it?
No, it is a risotto with chicken, and is enough. If you add any other ingredient, it would not be Italian. So, I would eat these or these and these together as a main course all together, but no vegetables, because the rice is the ingredient you have to use to soak up the flavor of the chicken. So you don't need any vegetables with this, will not go well. If I add anything else, I would add it after. So because otherwise you confuse the flavors, really, like one thing at a time, like how it goes in here.
I love how traditional you are as well with what goes with what. It's good. That's why we love Italian food. I was just looking actually at some really nice comments. Actually, Sheila's watching us from the States, which is lovely. Nice
Ciao, Sheila.
And Liz is a bit under the weather, so I'll send you. Hopefully, you get better soon, Liz. And yeah, it's been lovely to see everybody today. Have a bit of a chat. What else you got planned for the rest of the week, Livia? You got a busy week or?
Training. Yes, I got lessons as usual, and watching TV. No, still, I think these are the last. It's the last month of a bit of relaxation, because I think we will be quite busy with Flavours.
Yes.
As far as I can see for now, because since the end of March or half of March, we're starting with short break in Tuscany, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, you are, and also we're starting back some of the Scottish holidays, and so we're getting geared up again to get back to what we used to do, which is lovely, which is really good. And this week we've got some of the team, got a team meeting happening for some planning, which is great. I've got my son's got 18th birthday party this week, so
Madonna 18.
18. So yes. So we've got that this week too, which is great. And there's a big rugby match on at the weekend as well. So busy diary this week, which is great. Thank you so much, Livia, for joining us and for giving us some ideas and some inspiration. And it was lovely to see everybody in chat. Thanks if you're watching. Thank you so much for giving up the time to watch us chat away at Monday lunch. Any thoughts for next week, Livia? I always ask you the same question. It's very boring. But what are you thinking for next week?
Allora, I was thinking that there is a very Napolitan dish, which is pasta con le patate. Very, very typical, easy, simple. I think you have many different kinds of potatoes, so it's a good recipe for you. It's similar to a soup. It's not really a pasta. It's got quite liquid consistency, but a lot of flavor. So that's something great. I've learned in Naples, actually. So.
Lovely. Well, that sounds good. Perfect. Great. Well, I get the recipe up anyway in 2 minutes when I can come off for the rice. Anyway, if you cook it, please post up some pictures. Let us see. And I'll also, Livia, I'll post up a picture of our minestrone soup from last week.
Perfect.
Great. Super. Good. Let's enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you next Monday and see everybody else next Monday too. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye now.